Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing number 34 of Forgiveness to Love, where my life is exposed here. And so in this video, we're doing page 17 of my forgiveness list. And so the subtopics are a harsh realization, the lab rat, and the call to overcome. And so I wanted to take a moment to share a harsh realization with you, which for most of us can be a painstaking part of our human experience, right? We can look at the bigger picture of life. And I'm not talking about the really big picture from the perspective of our soul, but the picture that is between the mundane and the spiritual, where we take a break from daily life, from the daily grind of daily life to observe. And so for me, I thought about how many times everyone in my life seemed fake. And, I sometimes when we think about it, I felt that everyone kind of wanted me for what I could do for them, because I lived on Chicago's North Shore in a posh little town called Kenilworth of only 800 homes or so. And so people thought, I could give them just about anything or do just about anything for them. And so they didn't care about me, or they didn't love me, or at least that's what I felt. And so, in fact, most didn't even know the real Maria, and nor did they care to. It was just kind of easier to join the haters, the flying monkeys, the lemmings, the furry little rodents, that go around doing damage. And I'm not talking about when things were fine and I lived there and friends, we had friends galore and everything was seemingly wonderful. It was once I had set the divorce in play, and then people had to take sides. And so most took the side of the husband because they assumed he was, the breadwinner, and he would have more of the financial resources than the wife. And I must tell you that there were more than enough women there who were totally destroyed during their divorces, which is a very sad commentary on our family court system for sure. But anyway, so as people took the side of one of the people rather than being neutral, because no one knows what goes on inside a home. Certainly no one knows what goes on inside the bedroom. And so people are so eager to kind of jump on the bandwagon, but they want to jump on the winning side of the bandwagon, right? And so I think people, and because sometimes in a divorce or in any type of adversarial situation, one side tends to be the one who likes to talk the most and to disclose the facts, or to kind of set up this imaginary scene of how they want others to view the situation. It's kind of like they become their own PR firm. And then they go around hiring another PR firm, a real one. But anyway, I saw that there were many people who believed the lies about me. And I think that kind of justified their gang stalking and even getting paid to gang stalk. And so, then as things progressed, and then I moved to Florida, and it became even more evident. And then the whole situation with the inheritance and all the fortune there, that became a real issue. And so people saw that there was just almost this seemingly unlimited supply of funds. And so there were, they had direct deposits, right, into their bank accounts from my fortune that I didn't even have, much less control. And so they could ruin my name, right, and trash my reputation and seemingly be totally unaffected by it because there wasn't that personal connection. Most of them didn't even know me. But by lying that I was some druggie, or hearing some rumor, a druggie, or an alcoholic, or a slut, or a liar. I mean, what else? What other things do people say? Especially they use it in the divorce court, right? When and divorce attorneys are certainly guilty of that as well, trying to paint the other side as being, an unfit parent, and let's do this huge custody fight that's going to cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, and just try to ruin the whole family. But anyway, that's for a different time, a different place. But right now, as I was thinking about it, there's so much gossip mongering, right? And where people can engage and want to destroy someone. And what kind of rumor can they make up, right? And if it's not, what did we say, the druggie, the alcoholic, the liar, the slut, the cheater, it could be, oh, they have an STD, or oh, they have a record. They were arrested for, what is it, maybe shoplifting, or, just bullshit. They can just say anything and people will buy it hook, line, and sinker. And so because I was married to a gay person, which I didn't know about, it was a rather celibate marriage, if you know what I mean. And so for most of my marriage, after my marriage, I needed a lot of healing because I never imagined that that the person I married, who swore to me and to my father that he just loved me so much and he just thought I was perfect in every way. Oh my gosh. But then all of a sudden, during the honeymoon, all this stuff came out. It's like, oh no, I only married you for your dad's money and for your assets. I don't really, I'm not really the least bit attracted to a woman. And so anyway, after that, I tried to leave, but then there was, oh, well, we just had this big wedding for you. And oh my goodness, why don't you just, give it some time. Maybe he's confused. Anyway, I guess I was the one that was confused. But anyway, after that, it wasn't either, I didn't meet the right person, or it wasn't the right time, or whatever. But sometimes as we reflect, we realize that everything happens as it should. And so we, after certain events in our life, we really do need to sit back and heal, right? And so as we overcome one challenge after another, we elevate as we see things differently. So at first I was, absolutely horrified. And I thought, well, he just totally took me for a ride and he wants my father's money. And then my father started changing his accounts and being a little more careful because he had been my father's stockbroker. So he knew about all the money. But then I realized that that there was something I needed to learn about this. And then the longer I stayed, the sicker I got, because he had like this systematic poisoning going on, which I didn't even know about and didn't even find out until it was confirmed to me during our divorce, because it was something that he disclosed to both his lawyers, and then his lawyers disclosed it to my lawyers. But anyway, in terms of the people who actually sided with him and tried to run my name through the ringer, perhaps it was better that they didn't know me, because I would imagine if you try to ruin someone you don't even know based on what you've heard about them, I would think that would bring you some heavy guilt. What do you think? And so I realized that these people were not to be in my life going forward. They had already decided, they had already seen me in a certain light. And so no matter what I did, I could have been Mother Mary and they weren't going to change their mind about that. And so, it kind of reminded me of how transparent people are, or how actually transparent they aren't until they are. Because do you remember the whole spring break exchange where a girl wants a guy that's wearing a Harvard t-shirt and a guy wants a girl wearing a Stanford t-shirt, even though they've never been to those schools. They don't even know what states those schools are in, but everyone's pretending to be someone that they think is more desirable than who they really are. So I always found that rather humorous. But life's a game, and they were all in, as long as as long as you were their supply, right? Because if there was a wrinkle in it and you said no, 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 then they said forget it. There's always dozens of other options available, right? Plenty of fish in the sea, we've all heard, for them. And so after all, you actually made them more desirable by allowing them to be seen with you. Have you ever thought about that? I thought that was kind of funny. And so for some, that was enough, and they got what they wanted. Yes, sometimes it feels like everyone, everywhere, all the time, lie and trick us. For years, be it 20 or 40, I felt used like a puppet if I had a moment to even think about it, actually. But generally, as a mom, as a wife, as a politically correct and socially aware woman, kind of partnering with her spouse in business to progress his career, we're on autopilot. We're doing, we're going, and we don't even catch on that we play into the dark agenda, which wants us to not have time for introspection, for meditation, for going within. And all of those things can wait, right? Because we have things to do. And yet, every aspect of our life then is controlled by others, be it the legal system, the financial system, corporations, or even in the medical arena, whether we recognize it or not. Now there's all this talk about narcissism and the narcissists, and psychopathic individuals focus on stealing our goodness. They focus on stealing our innocence. And they want to keep us ignorant, that's for sure. But they want to steal our innocence. They want to steal our naivete. They want to steal our huge and welcoming heart, right? And in most cases, the thieves are actually family, be it biological or by marriage. They like to steal everything from us and in every way. And then when there's nothing left, they can throw us away and leave us vulnerable and barren. Anyway, I felt I was none other than a laboratory mouse. And maybe it's because I worked with so many lab rats in grad school, but I was their experiment, their toy, their plaything, because we can basically get the little animals, the little lab animals, be it gerbils or hamsters or mice, to do just about anything we want if the experiment is set up the right way. Anyway, I felt that they thought I was like the wooden dummy. What is it, the ventriloquist dummy? Because I felt like I provided entertainment. And so, it didn't even matter that actually it was my money that was funding the whole charade. But I remembered the woman in Brazil, and I've thought about her a lot, who, stopped me on the street, on this like clay street in this little rural town, and said she saw the betrayal of the world on my shoulders. And I dismissed it because I awakened happy. I mean, I love to be in a good mood. I love being positive, and I love my life, and I love being me, regardless of what some cruel and jealous individuals have said and done to me. That's really their problem. And so as we kind of reframe our experiences in our past, we understand that sometimes people don't even know us, and they don't even want to know us, and yet they can go around gossip mongering and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But many times it's, I think we blind them with our light because we don't want to play into their game, and they don't like that, right? Because narcissists need their supply. And so for us, our job is to keep shining and to shine brighter and brighter no matter what. And at the same time, to come out the other end, we must be self-aware, because we're not to kind of fade into the darkness or whatever. We are to become more and more empowered with every challenge, with every obstacle that we overcome, with every challenge we face. And so we must embrace all aspects of ourselves, right? Both our successes and our failures. And so I think that that's something to really keep in mind, because it's not all about, oh, airy fairy and everything's so wonderful, but truly to feel that within every cell of your being, and to learn from both, and to embrace both the light and the darkness within us, because we all have that speck. It's that yin and yang. We all have that speck of darkness within our light. And so we must know our strength, before we can access it, because you have to know it before you can actually even think about beholding it, right? And we must know our worth before we can effectively deal with others, right? Because otherwise then we assume that we have no value, and so then we allow others to overtake us. And so it's a wake-up call that slaps us in the face at times. And for those of you who've heard my story, it's kind of like the huge Greyhound steel bus door, that was smacked closed on my delicate little face. It was the right side. To pummel my head and throw me to the ground unconscious. Yeah. Well, since childhood, the sibling had tried to look like me, talk like me, act like me. And so did she really plot and plan that horrific crime to destroy both my face and my brain, my looks and my IQ? I don't know. I don't know. The evidence certainly points in that direction when the trial was to be on her birthday, and it looked as if my attorney was not going to be defending me. So I would say that I was to lose that lawsuit. And so in any event, what I share isn't pretty sometimes, but it's truth. And it's time that we stop making excuses for others, be it family or friends or bosses or coworkers or even children. And I never could have ever imagined that sibling and son would do what they've done to me. Never, never, never. I mean, I thought perhaps, I thought the ex might come close, but I never even thought that he would cross those lines. And so, yet, because he was working with the sibling and the son, the signs were all over there, over and over and over again. They had already stolen everything, yet they continued the torture. And I kept thinking, well, then it's not about things, right? Because things weren't enough for them. It became profoundly personal. And that's really a key there, because they were not going to stop then. No matter how much they took, it would never be enough. And I didn't know how to get through to them. I didn't know how to get through to authorities. I mean, I had spoken to so many. I didn't know how to get through to legal counsel, to government entities. And at times, I'm a prayer. At times, I didn't even know how to get through to my angels and my archangels and the heavenly beings, and to God Almighty himself, right? The creator of heaven and earth and of everything visible and invisible. And then, of course, was the cover-up, which oftentimes is even worse than the crime itself, because certainly they have to cover up the crime, right? And then they have to blame the victim, or they blame an accident. It's an accident, or, oh, it's somebody else that is at fault, or it's everybody else's fault but the guilty, right? And so I felt betrayed every step of the way by the only family I had left, including my 4 beautiful children who I hadn't seen in nearly 2 decades. And so now they're in their 30s, and I had vowed to protect them with every cell of my being. And I took them with me when I escaped one morning, our marital home, because I don't think I've mentioned this, but he had overtaken the master bedroom suite area, and I had ended up sleeping with my daughter in her. She had a queen-size bed and a beautiful bedroom. And so I asked her if I could stay in her bed with her. And so we did. I stayed there, and in the middle of the night, one night, I awakened because I heard something, and I awakened and I saw my ex-husband holding this pillow above my head as if he was ready to suffocate me. And so I just couldn't even imagine it. And so, because for years, I thought it was tolerable because I wanted to be there while my children were still growing. Yes, and to kind of keep up the facade, the stability of a happy family. Because we all smiled, and pretended everything was fine. And there were enough good times when he was traveling, because many weeks he'd be traveling all week long and then come back on Saturday or Friday night. And then we'd have a social function on Friday night. And then on Saturday, the children had all of their sports activities. And then Sunday was usually a day of hell, though. And they do find that to be true for many successful businessmen and professionals, because they dread going to work on Monday, and so they kind of take this out on their family on Sunday. And so that's when a lot of domestic violence hits the fan. In any event, as if, and it almost seemed like, well, money and crazy don't coexist, right? Well, let me tell you, money and crazy certainly do coexist. And so crazy has, there's no correlation between wealth and craziness, I'll tell you, because poor people are crazy and rich people are crazy and people in between are crazy. And so, and they behave in different ways, because sometimes they are covert and sometimes they are overt. In any event, I had no idea that the ex was working with a sibling way back then. And so while I was still married, I guess they were plotting my demise. Oh my gosh. And truly, it never crossed my mind, really. And I know my parents kept telling me to be careful and to not be very close to sibling. But maybe they knew something I didn't know, but they did not inform me of it. And anyway, when you think about it, most Americans wallow in some type of dysfunction, right? One form or another, until they decide to change. And that's the golden moment. And that's what I want to share with you, because all of a sudden, there's that moment when something clicks and we realize that it's either do or die. And I think that point for me came with the pillow above my head. And I don't know, should I tell you the rest of that evening, or that night? But anyway, I screamed, and then my two sons, who were sleeping, their bedrooms were on the third floor, and they kept running down the staircase, and so they were there. And then my other son was on the second floor in his room, and they had heard me scream. And then, he said, "Oh, just go to bed. Your mother's, just being hysterical, like she always is." And so just go to bed. And then every 45 minutes, I think he must have set his alarm, or maybe he just didn't sleep all night. But every 45 minutes, he came in through the master bedroom, and then through my one son's bedroom, and through my daughter's bathroom, which was adjacent to her bedroom. So he just kind of made this path. And then it was in her bathroom, and he'd flush the toilet and turn on the sink and everything to make some noise and turn on the light, and then come in the bedroom and then start screaming at me. And he did this for every 45 minutes. And so finally, about 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, I took the children and I grabbed their things and told them to get their backpacks for school the next day. And we went to my parents' condo. My parents had a condo in Wilmette. My marital home was in Kenilworth, and their condo was in Wilmette, just a few blocks away. And so I called my parents and I asked if I could go to the condo, and they said, of course. So I took the children and we went there. And the whole thing was a setup, though, because while I had taken the children there and then I drove them to school, about 10 o'clock, my attorney called me and he said, "Oh, you know what, your your soon-to-be ex-husband went to court and said you abandoned the house, and so you're no longer allowed in there. And they changed the locks, and I couldn't even get in my own home. And they had also said, well, these children are entitled children and they have this huge home in Kenilworth. And so what they need to do is the children need to go back to the main house and she can stay at her parents' condo. And so that was the beginning of that. And very similarly, when I was in Brazil, and while I was in Brazil, they changed the locks. My sibling and son and ex changed the locks to my home, the condo that my father bought for me, and then, took everything in it and put me out on the street. And so, and closed all my financial accounts too. So, isn't that interesting? So I guess they were all in it. And once something works in one stage of your life, the same people repeat it, in after you've gained your footing and you've reestablished yourself, and they just want to kind of ruin you again. Anyway, I'm just trying to bring some attention on this, because when you think of one party who maybe is no longer allowed in their own home, you think, oh, well, she must have done something really horrible. Well, what I did was escape a smothering pillow, perhaps. But anyway, that was fine. And then they did let me in because I took on the role of the housekeeper and the nanny. And so I would either let them in, or if they didn't show up that day, usually on days I had the children, they didn't show up. And so then I would drive the children to school in the morning, and then I'd pick them up for lunch and fix them lunch and then take them back. And then at 3:00, I'd pick them up and they'd have their karate lesson or their hockey lesson or their this or their that or their music, their piano, whatever lesson they had, which they probably had just about everything that was available to them. And so, and then we'd do lessons until about 6 or 7 o'clock, and then they'd have dinner, and then I would put them to bed, and then I would then go back to my parents' condo. So anyway, as we think about this, life isn't meant to be easy, but it is meant to be interesting, and it is meant to be fun if we can make it fun. And yet, it sounds kind of trite, doesn't it? But most of us have to learn the hard way. We suffer a lot because we go into that victimhood, like, oh my God, you won't believe this. This is the craziest. I live in the cuckoo's nest. I feel like Jack Nicholson here, surrounded by all this dysfunction. But really, it's all about our attitude, right? And so there is no more thrilling adventure, if I can say that, than overcoming struggle and overcoming the struggle within. And that's really what it's all about. It doesn't really matter about what's going on outside, because it's how we perceive it and how we deal with it. I mean, remember Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning? I thought that was a fabulous book. Anyway, he was a psychiatrist and he was in Auschwitz, and his conclusion was that the people that survived had this unbreakable bond with the knowing that there was someone waiting for them. There was someone who loved them more than anything, and that they had to survive so that they could reconnect again. Anyway, it's been, 20 years since I last read that book, but I think I'm describing it accurately to you. And so it is, when you think of whatever it is you're going through, you can get through it, because you know that there's something much more wonderful on the other side. And that had you not gone through this, you might not have been able to experience the joy that is forthcoming. And so it's all about, when people have sought to stop us, and thwart us and ridicule us and use us, and we're in shock over all of this. Sometimes we just have to, sit ourselves down and realize we don't fear. We don't give up. We stay in our lane. We do our work, right? to improve our situation, and then we rise above it. And I can tell you, if I can rise above it, so can you. And so we must overcome the people, the situations, the illnesses. My gosh, I've had so many illnesses as the result of poisonings and setups and just crazy things. Thank God that I've overcome, and that I am as healthy as I am. And so, but we have to be aware, because there are people out there who don't want us to survive. And so that's a cold, hard truth. And I know it's some people don't want to even acknowledge that. But covering our eyes just doesn't do it. It doesn't do it. We have to open our eyes and take responsibility for ourselves, right? And so, what did I talk about? The financial losses, whether we have the people and the situations and the financial losses and the illnesses and the betrayals, because the betrayal is really a tough one to overcome, and yet we must. And that's the key that opens every door, and opens every heart, and opens our heart, right? Our very powerful heart. And that's the betrayals that we recognize are just their unhealed wounds that would allow them to do such a thing to another human being, especially someone who cares for them or cared for them. And so we have to embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly that have appeared in our life, because everyone is here to teach us a lesson, and we are here to teach everyone else a lesson. And we have no responsibility as to whether or not they will accept the lesson or they will pass the test and learn from the lesson. Many times they don't, and then they have to repeat the lesson. But that's not on us, because as long as we've done what we are here to do, which is to be as kind and loving with boundaries as we are able, and to help as many people as we are able without sacrificing ourselves. Okay, you cannot help another if you don't have a full cup. That's what it is, because you must be whole and full and complete within yourself in knowing that what you're doing is the right thing, and being in a position where you can serve before you can actually be effective in that service. And so, many of us have endured humiliation and denigration and pain and suffering and loss and sorrow. That was really designed to end us, and sometimes we believe that we couldn't stand another moment. But you know what? That's the moment that when we're transformed, because we really then surrender. We surrender to a higher power. We surrender to the God essence within us. We surrender to the divine that we are. And we realize that we're not here to fail. We are here to survive and to thrive and to overcome, And so we are here to push through the blockages and the limitations that others have put in our way. And so we can reframe our life so that it's up to us to springboard our way to success. And we've learned so very much from those who had no idea at all that, in fact, not only were they helping us, but in fact, they were strengthening us. They were strengthening our resolve for the greatest comeback of our lifetime, right? And so, because if life were the same, if I still lived in my beautiful home and I had put up with the dysfunction of all of that, I would never have grown. I would have surely and slowly shriveled into a fraction of the woman that I know I am. And yet it was with every time that I thought, oh my God, I can't do this anymore, that I said, I have to do this, because this is for Maria, this is for me, and this is for my parents, and this is for all the women in my family, and this is for my ancestors, and this is for my children, and this is for my parents, and this is this is for all the women that I can help once I overcome my own situation. And so, yeah, I've had some pretty scary couple of days recently where I ate food that was laced with so many chemicals that were not agreeing with my stomach or my soul. And then I read this Elvis quote, and he said, "Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away." And I thought, that's how I felt when I needed to do something for myself. And I would do it. I would find clean food and water somewhere. And yes, for 40 years, I've played this sick game with family who are trying every which way to get rid of me. And so sometimes you can hear the little residual of the brain issue. But, you know, let's see. And so there were, I was telling you about the crimes of torturing and, and ending the lives of my mom and dad, my aunts and uncles. And those crimes were to stay hidden, but it's worn me thin. And because I was looking at the situation from the same fearful eyes, through the same fearful eyes as my mom and dad, who quaked in the fear of once they realized what was going on and that they were being set up to be sacrificed. And so they changed nothing. And I think it was because they were in such disbelief. And so, some people have morals and integrity, right? And so in the face of evil, my parents were at a loss. I mean, they couldn't fathom something that was so diabolical, like a killing spree of sorts, and so they gave up. And so I kept wondering too, how can this be? And how can darkness overtake such goodness in our family? And anyway, I have more to say on that, but I think I'm going to end this right now. And so quick, let's head on over to number 35, where I'll tell you much more as we continue forgiving ourselves for things that we think we could have done, should have done differently or better, and loving ourselves, which is the most important thing that we can do while we're on this planet. And so just remember, keep going, and you can do it. I know you can. And so I love you.